Why,
What up,
hello.
girl?
You are a fucking awesome wedding officiant.
Oh, thank you. It was a gift from a couple I married.
Aw, that's so sweet.
One of the only couples that's still together. Mazel tov. Well,
Hey,
what a super Tuesday. How are you?
what a super duper Tuesday. I am surviving and I'm working on thriving. How about that?
Oh,
It's about to be a
yeah.
super Friday. You wanna know why?
Why is that?
Because it's my birthday.
Girl, it's your birthday.
Mm.
Yo, yo. Oh, 29. What are you going to do for the big 29?
29, girl, listen, I'm letting go of all that. I am ready to tell you all that I am turning turning 5. Oh my god. Oh, I'm going to be 35 and ready to thrive.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're 35. You know what's depressing about that? That means I'm not. Wow.
Girl, it feels significant. And I don't feel like it needs to be. It's just, we're just going to keep doing what we've been doing. But I feel like I've come into myself, I've come into my power as a witch. I've come
Yeah.
into my credibility as a professional.
Mm. Say it again.
I've come into my credibility as a professional. And I think I don't know about the quality of my choices, but I think I have come into my confidence about my fashion choices. As I sit here before you in a gold tone button velvet blouse, which is an interesting choice. It's sort of
I
like,
I think it's good
thank you. It's sort of like, does she know it's not Christmas?
choice. Do they know it's
It's not Christmas at all. Feed the world. God, I hate that
I
song.
love it. I love it. I'm so proud of I'm so proud to know you and I'm so proud to love you. And I'm truly so proud of,
Girl.
the incredible person I've known, right? For so many years now, over a dozen years now.
I know, isn't that wild?
But the person you've become, it's been really awesome to witness.
Aw, girl. That's such a
Hmm.
nice birthday wish.
No birthday wish, but your gift is sitting next to me. And dear viewers, I will be giving her this gift live on the dish in person next week.
Live, yes, in-person dish next week. I cannot wait to see you in
And the
this
dish,
in
we're
this
gonna do the
basement
dish
hallway.
cam. Yeah, and it'll
Yeah.
be me giving you your gift. And dear viewers, I have already told one of our super fans, shouts Joseph, that I have found the perfect gift for Eileen. But you don't know how right I am.
I don't know a thing about it. I haven't seen it. I don't know it, but I've heard that it's apparently pretty great. So I can't wait to see it. Yeah. Girl, I feel like I haven't worn this on the dish yet, but I feel like maybe I have.
I don't know if you have.
Well, let's just let her have it. It's her birthday on Friday. Let's just let her have this.
Yes.
Speaking of letting people have things,
Ooh,
you know
what?
those those beliefs that you want to like dig into and question, but you're like in a relationship with somebody and you don't necessarily want to feed the conflict, so you're just like, let's just let them have this.
Oh, girl.
Tonight we're talking
This
about
is such
politics.
a yeah.
I
As somebody who spent a fair amount of time with their close family recently, biologically close family, I am here to tell you yes, yes, and yes to that. Woo! We are in an I would say one of the earliest it feels like. I don't think the presidential election season last time stopped. So I just feel like we've been in one continuous like 8-year election cycle.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for everyone, but for those of us on the progressive left that have kind of been in the trenches with some of the like repressive, reactionary social justice things that we've seen over the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years. Who's counting? Um,
Who's counting?
who's counting? Things just feel urgent all the time.
Yeah.
And then you sort of get gaslit into thinking that things are not urgent. And you're like, no, I can actually tell you from personal experience that things are urgent right now. So, like, you don't catch a break. And then, I mean, also as queer people, we don't have the luxury of choosing when things are political and when they're not because our existences are political. So.
And I want to go deeper on that because I think that's one of the challenges is like when you are a bystander in this world, we're not directly impacted.
Yeah.
Right? It is, the emergency hits different.
Yeah, it hits different. It do hit different.
You know, when I think back to, dating myself, when I was a little gay intern at a little statewide LGBTQ organization, we won't say which one, in a swing state.
Perhaps you know her. Please welcome to the stage.
Miss. Oh, I know. Anyways, but we did this was in the dark ages, girl. So this was pre-marriage equality when I was working as an intern, and we did focus groups in the Cleveland area around to see if we could get marriage equality passed on a statewide ballot initiative.
Yeah.
So this is before the federal case. So This is before Windsor. This is before Obergefell.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so fascinating about this was in these focus groups, the facilitator, you want to talk about a watershed moment for me as a facilitator, watching this facilitator, because she never brought up the word gay. She never brought up the word queer. She never brought up trans, homosexual, heterosexual, nothing. She just was like, well, what are your values? Like, what do how do you see people who are different than you? What do you see? And by the end of the focus group, 2 hours, there were 4 2-hour focus groups with different race and gender combinations in the room. People were saying, just, your neighbor and mine. Well, I'm fine with gay people. They just have sex on the desks at work and it's dirty and it's disgusting. Like old AIDS tropes, like old fucking stereotypes about HIV spreading that got people fired in the 80s. Yeah. And it was early 2000s. And we forget the conditioning of our brains from so much that we take in. And I think it's obviously now worse more than ever with social media. But this was just right under the surface. She just scratched that lotto ticket and bingo. And it was wild. It was wild. And I'm sitting there. It was almost just seeing what is that sci-fi movie with Sigourney Weaver where the thing pops out of the chest?
Oh, Alien.
Alien?
A xenomorph creature. That's my H.R. Giger impression.
You're like, I'm ready to jump into this conversation when you bring up sci-fi. Appreciate it. You know what I mean? And
I like to think of it as peeling the wallpaper. Isabel Wilkerson has that great metaphor about how America's an old house and it's got all this deferred maintenance and we're all residents of the house, so we have a vested interest in maintaining the house.
Yes.
And I like to think of the one thing as you're redoing a bathroom and you're peeling off the wallpaper, right? Oh. And it's so thin, it's so pretty, it's been there for so long, and you peel it off and there's just bugs. Everywhere. just ants. Just everywhere. And then once they're out, you can't put them back in, right? It's just people are having, the queers are having sex on their desk at work, and it's oh, okay. I would like to put the wallpaper back on, and you can't.
And it just crumbles in your hands.
Yeah.
And then your hands are covered in ants.
Yeah, and then what are you supposed to do, America? You tell me.
Seriously, tell me. There's so many ants.
Well, see you next week on Cover 10. So many ants.
But that's next week then.
Ants. Joseph will love that.
He would. And he is 50% of our audience.
Yes.
But yeah, with the emergency, right? With the trauma fatigue, right? I think then that stuff comes out even more of the woodwork, right? Because we're even more tired. Yeah. So all of a sudden you're saying something, you're like, wait, where did that come from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My lovely other half says, that just fell out your purse and you didn't even know it was there.
Whoop, something fell out your purse there.
And when you're in relationships, you present, especially early on. In friendships, I think worse sometimes than romantic relationships, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
I want to be this person and I am espousing these ideas and everything. And then, something political comes out because no one is one we're an amalgamation of a lot of different viewpoints, right?
Mm-hmm.
None are all in line with one particular party. That's just not how it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how liberal or how conservative. There's always going to be something on the outlier. And when we meet new people, we're so desperate for a clan and for a community that I think it's like, okay, this is where I am and this is my line in the sand. And then you get into relationship and intimacy, and all of a sudden you stumble into something. I had this happen with a gay woman comedian I was touring with, and all of a sudden she started spouting this anti-trans stuff out of fucking nowhere.
Wow.
Thank God, an 8-hour car ride to Michigan, and I had the kind of time to be like, tell me more about that. And we had a great talk. But
let's pull this thread a little more.
Right. But like, I mean, everything else about us, we should have been alive. Everything about, right? And we were so similar politically, and then we just kind of stumbled into this. And it's like, right now, it's so difficult when you're trying to connect with new people. I think especially in the queer community, because we are so divided.
Oh yeah, I love that. From the outside, you think that everyone in the gay movement, everyone among the trans community agrees, and it's like, we can't even agree on like what we all want to get to eat when we hang out together, like, let alone definitions of transness or like what inclusion looks like in our community. Like, it's all over the place.
What is enough, right? What is enough? You are trans and you are surviving and you are voting, and you are not voting for candidates who help trans people, but you individually are a trans person who's surviving. Who am I to tell you that you aren't doing it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and you know what's interesting is, like, politics in America right now is just team sports. It's frustrating because there are a lot of times where there are people who are like, well, it doesn't matter what anyone says, what anyone does. It's like, I am just ride or die for this party. And it's like, yeah, but let's back up. Shouldn't it be about the issues? Shouldn't it be about like what's important to you and what you believe in? And I just think I don't want to be that person who's like on both sides, because I am not a centrist. I'm on the progressive left, right? But I feel like we have to think for ourselves and decide, like, strategically. We can talk all day about how the system is broken, because it is, but
shout Citizens United for breaking the system. Keep going.
Yeah, but it should be about, like, what do we actually stand for? I just feel like it's kind of lost in the conversation. And the other thing I wanted to say was, I like to do a little swiping on dating apps. It's been known to happen. And what's funny is about girl, you're like, couldn't be me, but I guess that's fun for you. How fun for you?
Now I know where this is going.
It's a harrowing activity. Yeah, I think we've had this conversation.
Harrowing, yes.
It's harrowing. I think we've actually had this conversation on the phone, but let's talk about the difference between Tinder and OkCupid. And both of these platforms, like, when I go to swipe, it's partly for an unhealthy need for validation from men.
We love to see it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Self-aware.
I'm self-aware. I'm in deep conversation with my therapist about this, okay? Mm-hmm. I would thank you very much to keep that out of the comment section. But but no, so it's like you go dumpster diving for validation. And there's a little bit of it that's like, I love the delusion of, like, I'm just going to do like a fun escapist activity where I'm just going to like have some light conversations and maybe exchange some like sexy flirtations,
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Tinder, there's not a lot of questions about you. There's no like percentage match. There's no questionnaire that you like have to fill out to get to know a person. It's just, and this is not good, right? But it's just like, do you visually like this person or not? And so you're sorting people based on whether you're visually attracted to them.
Right.
Which is garbage of a certain kind.
100%.
But then also you don't have to think too much
about
what's under the wallpaper.
Right.
And then on OkCupid, you'll see sometimes the same people, right? Because I'm on both, they're on both.
Yeah.
And you will see someone who is like, there's a couple buckets, right? There's I'm liberal, I'm progressive, I believe in women's rights, I'm pro-LGBT, I'm pro-racial justice. And you're like, great, we can get that out of the way,
Right.
Then there's the people who are obviously on the other side that are like, I'm conservative, I'm not vaccinated, I like like things, and it's like, okay, no, thank you. And then there's the people in the middle where you're like, and the surefire sign for me, like the secret swipe left for me, is apolitical. Because that's not what that means, right?
No.
That's not what that means.
My privilege and power give me the ability to just be apathetic.
Mm-hmm.
At best.
Right. I think it's even worse than that. I think it's that they are deeply political, but they don't understand it with that language, or they're just being wantonly deceptive.
Yeah. If you can't handle putting a political belief on a dating profile, I am a firm believer you shouldn't be on there. Just a general political stance.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think, 2016, and I'm speaking in terms of like my whiteness, so that's all I got in terms of that, and you are also white, so we can have this conversation.
Me?
Shock, we're all in 2016, white people were like, there's no way, we can end up where we are, and then it's like, yeah, we can. This is exactly who America is. So welcome. And we all flipped out and stopped talking to our families and blah, blah, blah. And I fell into it too.
Yeah.
And then 2020 became this moment of, back to the conversations and what can we figure out and how can we, find this empathy and all of this stuff. And I don't know if always coming to the table to talk or cutting off contact is either one was a solution,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah,
I just coming back to this concept of triage, and I have to put it in a book that I will never write, because I'm like, there's just these things where it's like, we've both lost friends, for such really deep and meaningful things to our values,
mm-hmm.
that friend never sees as that valuable.
Yeah.
Think back and you go, well, then what were we doing anyway?
Yeah.
Right? Like if value systems are that far off, forget disagreeing. That's not what I'm talking about, right? That's the Dr. Seuss, what butter is the bread buttered on? Remember that? Like what? You know what I'm talking about? With the bread and the Dr. Seuss?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. With the bread, I don't know what you're talking about.
So Dr. Seuss has his book, and there's a war, and one side butters
the bread. Yes, the war. Yes, that's the war with the people who butter their bread on different sides. Mm-hmm.
Fucking the bread.
Yes, I surely do. This is what got
That's
me
not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is relationships ending because one of you is taking this like as as part of your value system, feeling betrayed, and the other person doesn't think it's that big of a deal. And you have an amazing story about that. So I will.
I may or may not be going through that right now. But what I'm coming to with that is that I need to let go of the stuff that I can't control, but I have to recognize that I do have control over something in this situation, which is my response. And my participation in it, right? So I'm now faced with the two alternatives of one, say nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
I carry some additional mental anguish around that.
Yeah.
But it's a compartmentalization that is unfortunately familiar.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel tenable anymore.
Well, I think it could kind of be like, I was actually talking about your friend, but we can totally talk about this. I love that. We have lots to say, so it's a surprise.
We have lots to say.
Just kidding.
Also, speaking of lots to say, I would forgive you if you never actually published it, but like, girl, you gotta write a book. You've got so much to say.
Too much. Anyways, you know what it is? I'm going to use another really good metaphor that I just think I'm killing on the metaphors tonight. But, it's like one of those old fucking bridges, right, in the movies with like the planks that break when you step on them.
Oh, yeah, like a rope bridge. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm like, it's not, because when people are like, oh, that's how it feels right now in some of these relationships where I'm like, I'm walking across and I may make it. I actually might.
Yeah.
Right? Where I may fall through on the first plank. And the anxiety about making it is more exhausting than the outcome.
Yeah. Well, because it's a long bridge. To extend the metaphor probably too far, It's a
As you should.
as we should. This is where one of those things that we are like on the same fucking page about as friends. Like we will ride a metaphor till it dies.
Like fucking into the earth like a worm.
Yes, yes. We will ride that metaphor till the wheels fall off. But so
Tremors too.
see, now we're doing meta metaphors.
Ah!
We're doing metaphors about the metaphors.
And I made a Tremors 2 reference. And right after a Dune 2 premiere, I feel pretty good about my worm knowledge.
Similar. Sandworms. Anyway, so the rope bridge is very long, and at any point, each plank along the way could break, right? So if you decide not to walk the bridge, it's like it's done, and there is a certain amount, like there's a mental anguish you carry about opting out, but then there's an additional like, what if, you know?
Totally.
And then if you go down it, it's not just like, okay, I decide to have the conversation and then it's done after we have the conversation. Right now it's like an iterative, continual, not iterative, incremental. It's an incremental process each step of the way. And that's
each
a lot
step
of work.
You can go through the fucking bridge. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
Like it's truly it's such a marathon in relationships. And I think like I don't know, I also get frustrated when I meet people that are like, oh, I cut them out there toxic. I cut them out there toxic. I mean, I actually don't know. I don't know what that word means anymore. I think it's just so overused now.
Yeah, it's used to the point it's lost all meaning.
Exactly, like gaslit. But
yeah.
I always want to take inventory, right? And take stock of the relationship and go, all right, what is what is worth saving in terms of our disagreement? But that's separate than our value systems are fundamentally like what I take seriously and what I value, like things like my livelihood, my safety, my autonomy, my agency. If those aren't valued, I actually don't think any disagreement is relevant or any agreement is relevant because we're on a different. You're on a chessboard and I'm on checkers or whatever. We're not playing the same game.
I'm on backgammon and you're on pinochle. I don't see this working out.
If I had a nickel.
Yeah. Oh my god, girl. Speaking of whiteness, I wanted to center back to a joke. I wanted to circle back to a joke. I was putting on a little bit of concealer because I was feeling like, listen, I celebrate myself at all versions, all stages of my life, whatever, but I need a little concealer, okay? So I broke out the Maybelline Age Rewind concealer, which we love on this channel. and I look... You love how I keep sneaking things in like we're sponsored, and we're absolutely not sponsored in any way. So I was like, I looked at the bottom where like the shade is listed on the concealer, and it said pale.
Oh.
And I was like, great, I'm being read by my concealer now.
Love what? We say to that? so many fucking mugs.
Oopsie koopsie. By the way, if you would like an oopsie koopsie mug, we have exactly 4 left.
Ooh, we gotta do some contest.
Yeah. Girl, it's behind my second monitor, so I'm really struggling to get this out here without breaking anything.
Well, then don't bother, girl. They know what it looks. Oh!
I think the children need to know the absolute stunning comedic genius that is the co-stars of Cover Dish. And now...
Always relevant.
That's right.
Let's dish. Since we started a few minutes late, let's go a little late. Not too late.
Oh, no, I'm into it.
Let's dish briefly on what happens when you lose a friend because of politics.
Oh my god. How could we forget? Oh my gosh, girl, how could we forget? Lest we forget. So, I may or may not have had a friend who was also in the performer community. And now the, 2 people that watch the show are going to be desperately scouring Facebook for the receipts. But you know what?
Finding them.
Yeah. Good luck finding them, girl. No. So, I had a friend that was in a romantic relationship with a paramour. And everything was going just fine. This person was perfectly lovely in interactions and group interactions. And then some tension happened online because this person said something that was politically insensitive. And then people were pointing out the fact that this was insensitive, tone deaf, harmful, dishonest even. Um, it had to do with, God, this is so old now, but it had to do with, I think it was supporting Donald Trump. I think that really was what precipitated all of this. And so the comments started from people who were
Oh yeah.
in the performer community, and they were like, "Are you serious? Like, here are the
Right.
reasons why that this post is deeply concerning." And
Right.
the friend of ours who was dating this person was kind of like, "Well, that's politics. People can have different beliefs. This person is entitled to their beliefs online. You're entitled to your beliefs." And uh, it removed the wallpaper.
Mm.
That was the moment where the wallpaper came down, and it was just like, but wait a second, like this now, this brings into question your own value system
Right.
and your
Right.
support of us. And I think that's the thing where if not much is at stake for you politically, you might not understand how more is at stake for other people.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey, we need you to come over to our side because you need to be on the right side, right? I think that's where things tend to get derailed, where it's
Yeah.
like right versus wrong. Which team are you on? Which side are you on? Um, I had a conversation with this person in, last quarter of 2020 was the last time we talked.
Wow.
And it was like, my perspective was, hey, I just don't know how I can be around you and support you knowing that this person is in your sphere. And it doesn't feel reasonable to me to be like, I want to hang out with you, but I don't want to hang out with the person that you're now primarily seeing. That doesn't feel doable.
No.
And then their perspective was, well, I just feel sad that my friends are making me choose between them and my partner. And it's like, I'm sad that you're framing it that way. Because I feel like you're missing the point.
Right.
Like, and it was girl. It was, I know we're talking about in the abstract here. It was pro Donald Trump, like anti-immigrant, COVID denier.
Right.
Like it was a list.
It was a
list
bouquet. Everyone in the performer community could find something for them.
It was a terrible bouquet. Yes.
And I think one of the but this is where the challenge actually didn't likely come, at least for you, from the post. Likely knowing him and a little bit about him, you could have probably put some of those things together. I think for you, it was the nonchalance with which your friend, right, who had espoused these values, right, the second she butts up against any discussion about how it goes, she folds like a fucking house of cards. So what are we doing here? What were those values? What was our connection?
Yeah.
And is it that deeply compartmentalized where you can say, hey, yeah, I am, deeply entrenched with Black and trans communities and communities of immigrants. And yes, this also.
Yeah.
It's a cognitive dissonance that, would have likely just drained you.
Yeah. And it was sort of a willingness to listen, If someone is like, hey, I'm not there now, but I'm sort of willing to listen to other perspectives, then that's something you can work with, right? You see a possibility towards us maintaining a relationship. And when it's sort of like diminishing your feelings on the issue, appealing to this sort of like, well, everyone is entitled to their, well, let's just agree to disagree. That was actually a phrase that was used in our last conversation. And I said, hey, I just need you to know that this is not an agree to disagree situation. That's not what this is.
No.
That's basically you telling me that you are, like, you have the luxury of being able to not be affected by this.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I'm affected is none of your concern.
Yeah.
So, we were not best pleased by the reaction of that.
I think it's a time of I think this whole year will be an incredible time of that inventory and those conversations. And
yeah,
as we wrap up, I think the most important thing is I was talking with a friend of mine tonight on the phone briefly, and you're talking about how our generation is trying to focus on health and wellness in a way
Mm-hmm.
um, that sometimes our parents' generation doesn't understand. And a lot of us are doing it wrong or doing it haphazard or doing it only every other day or whatever, but we're trying,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in this time, dear viewers, I ask you to take care of yourselves because it's going to be a hell of a year. And it just got started tonight officially with Super Tuesday.
Super
So
Tuesday and our timely choice to talk about politics.
we're going to do better next week's birthday episode with Eileen Galvin and Brooke in person.
Yes, girl. I want to just offer one more thing to you at home.
Girl, yes, keep going. Yes,
yeah. I want to offer one more thing to you at home, which is that I'm the type of person that I think it's like a disservice to our relationships that we built to write someone off at the first sign of trouble. So like both things can be true. If you don't have the capacity or the willingness to like go deeper on a conversation, then you don't have to. But I just think like if we can if we can develop a practice of talking to people, if we feel like there's still the potential for a relationship there, then like I have this feeling that that's how we move forward together, Because disagreement is going to always be there, and sometimes it's going to be about stuff that feels very fundamental or uncomfortable to us. But who knows where someone's willing to go. And if they're just like, nope, I'm not willing to go there with you, then triage. Maybe it's wrap it up. And on that note, it's time to wrap up this episode of Covered Dish.
I see what you did there. Love y'all.
But we'll see you next week in person. Bye.